Welcome to the Detailer's Dock, anchoring you in the world of marine detailing. Whether you're a seasoned detailer or just starting out, this is where every detail matters, with your host, Captain Ken Mercer from Marine Detail Supply Company.
Welcome to the next episode of the Detailer's Dock. It has been some time, actually, where I've been running far behind on these. I apologize for those that are out there that have been listening. I know I've been getting emails going, hey, when the next episode's coming out? But, I think we all understand on how, the holidays work and then, the turn of the year of 2025, because this is officially the first episode of the Detailer's Dock in 2025. We graciously have Justin Blankenship aboard. So Justin, if I know a little bit about you, but there's a lot of people that are out there that are listening and watching because, obviously we stream this on YouTube as well. So if you guys want to see us in action, it's on YouTube and as well as on Spotify, you can actually watch the video. But besides that, Justin, go ahead, take it away. Tell everybody, where you're from, what about you, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes.
Sure. So Justin Blankenship, I'm out of Louisville, Kentucky. I have a marine services business called Professional Boat Detailing of Kentuckyana. Started this little operation some time ago when I started realizing there was quite a bit of need for some professionalism in the marine environment. A lot of people around the docks, they were getting poor service. They were getting poor, I saw an opportunity and took it. I grew up in the marine business. I've been doing it, like I say, for some time. So I went full time with the opportunity some time ago, and it's been rocking ever since.
Nice. So what did you do before that?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything, actually. I graduated from Marshall University in West Virginia with a business degree, and then I went to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car as a branch manager. I got into medical sales for probably about 15 years, and then now I'm a professional boat detailer, man.
That is just crazy how you shift from working with Enterprise to, running a wheel full time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been beneficial coming from a business background and getting going that way. Been able to implement a couple good marketing strategies and gain some traction in our market.
It's an interesting jump in careers, I think you would say, right? Because I think even being a branch manager for Enterprise is a pretty respectable position. Right. And then moving into what kind of medical devices were you selling?
Orthopedics. So orthopedic devices. There was a device that would heal bones faster for athletes and people with diabetes. And then also did bracing. So if you go out and you tear your ACL or you have rotator cuff surgery, we would have the braces and stuff like that did that. Back in my mind, man, I've always wanted to work for myself. Working for somebody else, making them rich was just
was a tough pill to swallow, right?
It was, man. It was, working 50 hours for the man. And then, we work a hell of a lot harder here, but it's worth it. It's more rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're working for yourself. So, take me through that transition though. So what was the eye-opening moment for you to go, cause you're married, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you looked at your wife and go, hey, I'm going to be a boat detailer. I mean, how does that start?
Sure. So my wife's actually a financial advisor. So she was like, man, you got to have a plan in place before you jump off this bridge.
Right.
Luckily, I did it for a side hustle for a while to build it up rather than just go cold turkey, and have zero revenue. I built it up as a side hustle for quite a while. So
like a hobby?
Yeah, for a hobbyist. And I was honestly that guy that was kind of knocking on friends' doors and trying to get some boats lined up. I just made the transition very slowly. Right about when I was about 30%, 50% of my revenue was profit. And so I didn't take that big of a pay cut.
Right.
One day I came to my wife and was like, hey, it's going to be give me 1 year to do this. We put everything I got into it. My wife said, she's like, you can't just jump off the bridge with zero revenue.
Yeah.
We got to have a cushion in place. So I built it up to where I felt pretty comfortable, where I was starting to turn away business. And, you can only do so much in the evenings and on the weekends and just trying to hustle as much as you can. So I knew the opportunity was there.
Right.
I'd already done some marketing to some dealerships and to create some kind of partnership with them to where I had guaranteed more revenue coming in.
And
And it worked out.
Okay. So, from there, what would you say, like one thing that I've always leaned on you on, right? I think we've had numerous conversations via phone, social media, vice versa. And before, you're always like one of those guys that's been out there that's really willing to help others more than most. But where, even myself, I even lean on you just because, like, when it comes to pontoon boats, like that's something that, I think I could use more knowledge on. And I always lean on you. And if you wouldn't mind, I think there's a lot of us that are out there that are listening. Most of the time we're strictly focused on fiberglass or paint when it comes to your center consoles or your bay boats or your sport fish or your whatever it may be, super yachts. But we can't lose sight that there's another type of vessel out there, which is a pontoon boat, which I like to call a couch on the water, because that's essentially what it is to me. But, tell me, really what separates you when it comes to, dealing with pontoon boats. And if you wouldn't mind sharing some information that you think would be really beneficial, or what you see people are doing wrong when they go after or try to, attack one of those.
So, we talked about boat detailing, and, as a business owner, I think it's really important to say, hey, like my core business is going to be boat detailing. That's where 70% of my revenue comes from, or 50%, or however you want to work it. And then you start looking at different opportunities. And, if you go to a boat show these days, you see $200,000 pontoon boats.
Yeah.
With trips, or not trips, on the back.
450s on the back, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And people are paying $200,000 for these things. What they don't know is a lot of these pontoons are coming unprotected from the factory. So, you use them for 1 year in the water, especially like South Florida or in hot, humid sun in Louisville, Kentucky. Those things are going to be baked, and oxidization is going to set in. So, you got this guy that has a $200,000 pontoon boat or even a $100,000 pontoon boat. They paid good money for it, and they're looking for options right now on how to make them look better.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a couple different ways to do it.
And elaborate, because again, this is as much education for me as for those that are listening, truth be told.
So there's a couple different ways to do it. You can do it chemically, which is by far the cheapest way to do it. You can get an aluminum brightener and it will just pretty much eat off the oxidization. And the only problem is it's going to leave your tunes like a milky white.
Yeah. Kind of, because it's like an acidic product essentially, right? So
it is. I mean, I think we've all seen what happens when you use an acidic product and it drips on an aluminum trailer.
Yeah.
It's going to turn milky. So your entire pontoon boat's going to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a price for every customer. So Some customers are calling us and they're like, hey, like take me through your options. So that's one. And the next option is going to be quite a bit more involved. You're going to basically restore the pontoon boat, almost think of it like gel coat. So you're going to sand it down. You're going to sand off all the oxidization. Typically with like a used pontoon boat, if it's been eaten up for a while, man, you're going to sand with 320. You're going to sand with 600. Mm-hmm. And then, you've got, 2 polishing steps after that. You got a cutting phase and then you got a color matching step. So it's really involved. It's a really dirty job. I think you'll see a lot of guys on the forums and they're, hey, I want to quote this pontoon boat. Mm-hmm. What do I do? And that's when I immediately kind of jump in there and was like, this is going to take you 40 to 50 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you've got to look at your business and say, in May, if you're generating $10,000 a week in May, and it's going to take an entire week for you to do this, it may not be a good option for you.
Right.
But if you look at those months and your revenues, your peaks and valleys, and you're like, hey, like February's a low month. What if I could do, a good job during this time? So we can play with it a bit. So, but that's my biggest warning to people is it's going to take 40 to 50 hours to do this. So
and are you using, like it's similar to like Renegade or Zephyr or something like that with like airway buffs and stuff like that?
That's what I'm going to recommend to all the guys that are just starting to get into it. And like anything, it's practice makes perfect. But yeah, the Renegade kit I think it comes with like 600.
Yeah.
And that's going to work on a lot of your pontoons. But a lot of people, when they get into it, if a customer brings it and the tunes are black, it's going to need a bit more. And that's why I always say, like, you may want to hit it with 300 or 320.
320. Yeah, because we actually carry the Renegade kit here at all the stores. And like, for me, I think that's the best value to anybody that's really going to want to get into the metal polishing game on tunes, because it comes with the rakes, the airway buffs, the rouge bars, the adapter plate. It's simply like, everything you need in a box, minus, like you were saying, you may have to go a little bit more aggressive with that sanding, but it does have the, what do they call it? The cut and then the color, right? I think it's
your
terms
color.
of polishing. And you can actually go, if I'm not mistaken, a step even beyond that, where I know some people, because we've worked closely with David Shine Money Tobin, that does metal polishing for a living, and he likes to, when he's polishing out these big aluminum wheels and stuff like that, they come with like a white flannel, so it's even softer to cut down on, I guess, what they call hash, right? Are you familiar with something like that?
Very little. What I do is I polish them out. I don't use the white ones, but I'll go right into a protector from there if I like what it looks like, and most of the time it does.
Right.
If you're not getting a good high gloss, and you're running these things at 3,500 on a rotary, and beyond that, I'm seeing guys like with professional ones that, they're running 6,000 RPMs. I mean, you have that spin off and hit your face, buddy, you're going to get nailed. So, you really got to watch out what you're doing.
So I think I recall one time too, you were helping an individual on Facebook, because you and I know we spoke about that at the beginning, but I think anybody within the boat detailing forums has either seen your name or my name come across trying to help people out. And if I recall, there was one time that you were trying to help somebody about get like more of a factory finish after they polish it. You were talking about scrubbing or scratching it, right? I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah. So some of your business when you get into this is, going to be marketing some of your dealerships.
Right.
So what they'll do is they'll order these pontoon boats in, and they're unprotected, some of them, and they'll let them sit on the lot. So they'll start from the shrink wrap. They'll have these runs that go down and just start tarnishing these tunes. So you have the guy that comes in and he's like, "Hey, what the heck's that on my boat that I'm buying? Like, I want it taken care of." So you can use Scotch-Brite pads. It's a maroon Scotch-Brite pad is what you can get into. If you've never done anything like this, man, like buy a jump. Yeah, man, buy like a $200 pontoon boat, like and practice on it, because the last thing you want to do is you want to get into this customer's boat and you're gonna put fine scratches all over this boat if you don't know what you're doing. And so the Scotch-Brite pad, what you'll do is you'll keep it wet and you go weld to weld. So instead of like this, you're going to go weld to weld, and you're going to walk it down, and you're going to go from top and you're going to go to the bottom, and you're going to work it that way.
And you're running it horizontally,
yes,
right?
You are running horizontally. If you look at all pontoon boats, they've got that grain in them, and you're going to run with that grain. So that can help refinish. Like, I've seen a lot of newer pontoon boats, it's still under warranty, and they've had an issue from the factory, and they will, some dealers will send them back to the factory, and that is the factory process. What they'll do is they'll take that maroon Scotch-Brite pad and they'll work it.
But are they doing the cut and color stage, or are they just doing a cut stage and then doing the brush strokes?
They are straight in going to the maroon Scotch-Brite pad. And so you're looking at a new pontoon boat and you just got like one or two blemishes on it. They are taking it and they're refinishing it with those Scotch-Brite pads.
Okay, so that is essentially a different way of going about it. So like, would you aluminum brightener it to remove it and then come back and then hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad to put of that pattern in it? That's correct.
Yeah. So if I have a customer that comes in and it's like, "Hey, Mr. Customer, there's two options for you. One's pretty cheap and one's going to be really expensive, and it just depends on what you want it to look like." A lot of times you can do it chemically, and then you can do the Scotch-Brite pad, or you can do, if they're willing to, because there's give and takes to every method. So if you do chemically, and you do the Scotch-Brite pad, it's going to look good, but it's not going to be really a factory mill. But it's going to look a lot better. And then if you do some sanding, say you do sanding with 600 and you take the Scotch-Brite pad, you're essentially sanding those 600 out with the Scotch-Brite pad and you're factory milling it back. So as long as the customer understands, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to look like it's, just coming from the factory. There's anything with any repair that you do, there's going to be some give and take.
Okay. So then let's lead into protection too, which is important, right? I think, that's a misconception out there too, is people are like, well, I just put wax on it? And I'm going to tell them no, but what's your answer?
No, absolutely not. So if you're going to go through all these steps and if you're not offering a protection to your customers, you're doing them in service, because essentially it's going to be like doing a full gel coat correction and not putting a sealant or ceramic on it. It's just going to dull back in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple different types of protections that you can get. Some are coming already from the factory as an option that you can do.
Starkide's one of them, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Sharkide, I believe is what I hear sometimes.
Yeah, so Sharkide's one. I haven't got into that. I've removed it. SG Marine makes one called Metal Jacket. And for instance, some of the bar lettuce, that's a factory option. So, you can get it installed there.
Is that like a ceramic or how? What?
It's like a hybrid ceramic. Yeah. Yeah. And essentially, it's super easy to put on. We're a dealer for them. We do a lot of boats every year. They have two different types of protectants, or actually three. If you're gonna just do, kind of be like a trailer queen, and right, you're gonna run around. You can put other metal jacket on it, and then they have another one that's called all jacket, and you spray it on. You gotta use a paint spray gun to lay it down and put it on if you're gonna leave it in the water. Armis is also another manufacturer. We are an installer for them as well.
That's more of epoxy based though, correct?
It sure is. Yeah,
okay.
It sure is. I think Armis, I've seen some studies where these guys are leaving it in the water for quite a while, and it's literally just wiping right off any algae. So it's a good alternative. It's something to definitely explore.
But when you're doing that Armis, are you just applying it kind of more like on like a bottom paint line, or are you covering the whole tune with it?
Do the whole tune.
Okay.
Do the whole tune, top to bottom, and you roll and tip it.
Okay. Which I think that's how they do it on the fiberglass boats too, if I'm not mistaken,
you bet.
Correct?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Matter of fact, I've got one coming in on Monday to do a fiberglass job with them.
Okay. So does it take away from, say you went through and you did your cut and color and really polish it out, looking at like super nice, glossy, like mirror finish, applying something like Armis or the other two that you mentioned, how does that affect the way it looks?
Most of the time, if you're going to polish out a pontoon boat, 9 times out of 10, the customer is going to leave it out of the water. That's going to be a trailer queen. And they're not going to leave it in the water and have water stains all over it. So SG Marine has a formulated one. It's called Metal Jacket XL. It's strictly for polished pontoons. And I would definitely use that product. It's easy to apply. And you really can't see it. It's invisible. With your Armis Pro, since you're rolling and tipping it, you are gonna have a little bit of the lines in it if you're not careful. So, but I think if you're gonna leave it in the water, I think I personally just don't like spraying things on a pontoon boat or fiberglass.
Yeah.
I shoot gel coat, and I talk myself into doing that every once in a while. So I just really don't care for it. So the roll and tip method is best for ones that are going to be in the water long term.
And then let's kind of talk about maintenance on tunes as well. So is there something, beyond just utilizing a pH neutral soap with a microfiber or a soft, bristle brush like you do on a fiberglass boat, or do you go about it a little differently?
So with the coatings I mentioned previously, these things are holding up pretty good. Armis is an epoxy-based product. This thing
it's rowdy.
It's gnarly, and it's going to be on there a while. So there's really not too much maintenance involved with either product. I've got boats with SG Marine hull jacket or with metal jacket on there, and that, like I say, they're the trailer queens. Man, you're 3-4 years out of these things, and as long as you put your hands on them, bring the customer back for like an interior detail, put your hands on it every year. You want to see how the coating's holding up, especially around in the area where you're going to get a lot of abrasion, where there's like bumpers, where there's
right. So what if they didn't have any type of, those protection? I mean, is there a different alternative? Do people do like spray sealants or anything along those lines? Or is it just really just a waste of time?
It's kind of a waste of time. This is what we do as a company. I mean, I'm not the end all be all on the subject, but I think, these are the two things that we do. And if, we stand by those products to put a spray seal or something like that. Sure, man, if it makes you feel better.
Those water beads.
You can do ceramic on them. I've seen it hold up pretty well. Everything though below the water line is going to immediately come off. Yeah,
absolutely.
But that abrasion, it's just like, I see guys that are out there that are ceramic coating the hull of a boat and underneath it. I guess there's two forms of thought. I'm sure people are rolling their eyes right now, but man, it's, your coating's going to wear through abrasion.
Yes.
And if you put it on the bottom of a boat, it's going to wear off. So
yeah, and it's not an anti-fouling agent either. Like, I had that conversation with some detailers that, they're the customer's demanding it, right? Well, I get it. Like, we could do our best to educate the customer and let them know that, essentially it's a waste of their dollars, but at the end of the day, they want it done, do it. But I totally agree with you. Anything below the water line is just a solid waste, and you hit it right on the nose, especially for those out there in salt water, right? It's abrasion. It's a running surface. And the number one killer for ceramic is abrasion, right? So that's why we emphasize, like, if you're going to ceramic coat your boat, the best way I like to put it now, I kind of came up with this. If you're not going to wash your Ferrari with those materials, don't wash your boat with it. So are you going to wash your Ferrari with a stiff bristle brush? Yeah. No. Don't wash your ceramic coated boat that way. Guys, gals, use microfiber wash mitts, is the best, way of doing it. If that's not accessible, then you got to go to the least resistance, which is a soft blue brush. But there, in no way should a yellow or a white ever see the side of a hull, ever.
Yeah, I even, we provide maintenance programs to all of our customers in the summer. So I just ceramic coated a boat. Hey, man, you can bring it to me, or, we can help maintain it. We can put the replenish on there for you. Or, like, here's all the tools that you can do, and you can keep up with it. And, in the maintenance program, we talk about, contact washes versus non-contact washes. And, this may be different in a saltwater environment. I'm sure it is. But, the ceramic, Stark Thor, it's so slick that, cuts down on all your need to wash the boats. A lot of times, once a week, sometimes you just need to just rinse it off. And a lot of that will go right off. So, you only maybe need to do a wash every couple of weeks, 3 weeks. It just really all depends on it, if it's covered or not. But yeah, that's absolutely right. You're not wanting to just wear off that coating.
No, like I said, abrasion is the number one killer. So let's get to the question that always comes up with pontoons and polishing them is what, Justin? How much is it? How much do I charge? Right? I think I see that probably once or twice a day around this time of the year. Granted, you don't have to stick to a hard-nosed number, but I would say give those out there that are listening that do attempt it so they don't totally lose themselves going into that job.
Okay, so the best way to put it is if you have to be selective, like we talked about earlier. If you deal in your peak business and you charge $3,000 for it, and your business is cranking in $6,000 to $7,000 a week, you've just lost $3,000. So one, you need to be selective about when you do it. And you need to look at the months where you have those peaks and valleys, and you need to select a month like, hey, February, I'm going to do it in February because it's colder than hell in Kentucky, and we don't go outside and wash boats. So I would suggest doing it as an hourly rate, just in the back of your mind. So you say you think your time, all detailers, any business should have a revenue goal per day.
Mm-hmm.
A way to pay the bills. This is your break even. This is where we want to be. So let's say your revenue goal is $1,000 a day. Okay. So this is going to take you 40 to 50 hours. So the boat should probably cost about $4,000 to correct.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get it done in 40 hours. Say you work hard and you do it in 4 days. And you got 40 hours in it, so you just got 4K. And then you're going to build the protectant on top of that.
Right, because that's going to be additional. That's not included in that 4,000.
100%.
Yeah.
Some of these kits that you're buying, they range anywhere from $400 to $800 to $1,000 a kit to do to these boats with. So you're going to have some materials on top of that. So you need to kind of invest wisely and look at it. I'm seeing people $150, $200 a foot all there. And that's about what, I'm seeing people start to build this stuff for, and then that's plus the protect.
Mm-hmm. So, and when these guys or gals are doing it, are they polishing on the inside as well? As it generally just the outside, and then maybe they go back, a few feet on the on the inner parts of the tomb?
Yeah, you're spot on. So what we'll do is we'll do the outside. Say it's a tri-tune, so you're going to do the outside of the tunes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go all the way to the water line. You're going to do the caps. And I always like to say we go about a arm's length and to each of the tunes on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Even with a protectant, I'm going on the inside because, you're not going to see anything back there.
Right.
I've got customers, just like we just talked about. I've got, with ceramic coating, like I've got customers that are like, hey, you're doing the whole thing. Man, if you really want me to do it, that's fine. Like, some of this stuff's $1,000 a kit, and you're going to run through 2 kits. And it's like, if you really want me using that much, that's fine. I'll do it. But I always try to advise my customers on what I think's best for them. And if they take your advice, great. I mean, I think that's why they're coming to you in the first place.
Now that we covered the bottom side, what do you think is missed or would be some good information to those out there for the top side? There's majority of vinyl that's up there, or there's carpet on the floors. Like, generally, what's your process of attacking those?
So we'll do a full detail. You pull anything on top, you're pulling all the compartments out. Anything out of the compartments, I'm basically doing a full power wash on the inside. I've got a ferro cannon. I think it's really effective, and 2, it's fun as hell.
Yeah.
You just sit there and
Yes.
you suds everything up, and both you do a good deep clean. As you well know, we use a lot of your products, especially for protecting the seats.
Right.
I love using ceramic on the seats if the customer is willing to pay for it. If not, a lot of these, it's just ceramic makes everything easier for the customer, and you're going to get a happier customer, because they're not cleaning as much. They're not getting those stains. So yeah, like we use a lot of that stuff. I'm a big fan of using HydroGuard.
Okay.
On the outside of the panels. A lot of those panels are aluminum panels.
Hey, right?
Yeah. And they're paint and decals. So, you want something that's really easy to work with. I used to, before all these sprays and, all this stuff started coming out, man, I was in there with a polymer sealant doing the corners of everything.
No.
It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And it cuts down, it adds more time to the job. And like the product called HydroGuard that you guys have, to quickly spray that on and to wipe it off.
It's a cheat code. That thing's such a cheat code, man.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's such a cheat code.
It's part of our process. Every time we do a pontoon boat, we do a detail like that. We even use it after we polish the engine cowl. We even go back and we use that stuff on there, and it slicks it right out. It does a really good job.
And so the side panels are aluminum painted, and I'm assuming that your process would not be the same way that you attack a fiberglass boat because those sides get oxidized and a little tarnished as well. Is that, generally more just a strictly DA style approach, or are you still doing a rotary stage and coming behind it with a DA?
No, we're treating it like paint. So the last thing, man, I'm not a car detailer. We do 100% boats. I won't even touch a car. I even hate to do my own car. So what we'll do is we'll come in with a DA and we'll work those areas and we'll polish them out if the customer wants to do it. A lot of times, the paint, if it's looking good, a lot of times it's water spotted. So we'll use a good water spot remover and we'll come in there and do that. And then we'll put the protectant there.
And a question that came off that I actually got over Facebook today, and again, I never claimed to be an expert with pontoon boats, but what about the metal framing in between? Like, if that gets oxidized, is that something that can be essentially sanded and polished back out? Or, your best rule of thumb is just to polish it or just leave it alone?
The framing, are you talking about what the deck sits on?
So, like, we're talking about the side panels, right? Majority of the time on pontoon boats, they have like a metal framing that, is the rigidity part of where those side panels sit, right? So,
So I've seen a lot of guys polishing those out as well. So if you're going to do the whole tune, you can, because those are aluminum as well, and you can polish those out as well.
Is it single stage or is it a base clear or is it just a variation depending on your make model?
If we're talking about the same thing, we're going to treat it just like it is the pontoon boat itself.
Okay.
So we're going to continue that process on up, just like what we've already talked about. And then we're going to put protectant on top of that.
Okay. Gotcha. So let's shift gears a little bit because I do know you play with fiberglass boats too.
Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit.
Just a touch, as well as you've done something that I think any successful boat detailer out there should gain this knowledge is get some knowledge on gel coat repairs.
Yes.
Right? Where, say for instance, you find something that's there, it's extra revenue for you to potentially, gain from the customer. Besides, if you make a boo-boo, you could fix it, right?
We never do that here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, if you wouldn't mind, like, elaborate on how, implementing the gel coat repairs helped your business.
Yes.
And then, let's touch base on like kind of how you approach fiberglass boats too, differently than pontoon boats.
Sure. So, we'll start with gel coat repairs. So with anything like we talked about earlier, I'm going to keep our core business to boat detailing.
Yeah.
And then I start looking for ancillary revenue and how I can bring in additional revenue. And I always joke around. There's a guy that works with me. His name's Cameron Mason. He hears it all the time. And I'm like, hey, Cameron, like, we're going to get $10,000 richer each little time we add something. So this may not get us rich, but maybe adding 4 other services will. So you got to start building up your offerings to your customers, and gel coat repairs. I saw a huge need for it. You're at a detail and there's a chip on a customer's boat and they're like, hey, like, do you know anybody who knows how to do this, who can fix it? And I was really tired of sending thousands of dollars in business to a guy that sends me nothing.
Right.
So that's how I got into it. And anything that I do, anything we offer, I want to go through extensive training. I want to become as big of a pro as I can get. And I wanted to, with gel coat repairs, I wanted to make sure that I'm not wanting the guy who's got his whole hull busted out and you're having to fiberglass all that in. Man, leave that to somebody else. A gel coat school cannot teach you how to do all that effectively in a week. What they can do is to help you do dock rashes, help you do like small little repairs, and that can become like real bread and butter. You can take a $1,000 detail and you can turn it into a $2,000 detail real quick in one day.
Right.
And that's why we started looking into doing it. I think there's going to be a huge need for this coming up. I see a lot of OG guys that are probably retiring or up against it, and there's not a lot of young professionals that are going into gel coat repair. And I see a huge need for it. They've just got to do those big repairs. You got to have a mentor. You got to have somebody that's going to be probably standing behind you and helping you through the process. Because if you tackle one of these big jobs, you're going to be way over your head and the job's going to look like crap and you're going to have a hard time explaining it to the customer. So I personally went to the Spectrum gel coat school.
Yeah, I would love to touch base on that. Yeah, I think they're pretty much the go-to as Stark, for instance, is now the go-to for the marine detailing education side that Spectrum is really the go-to if you really want to learn how to utilize gel coat and do those repairs efficiently. At least that's the way it looks to me outside. I don't know if there's another entity that's out there that's doing it that's respectable, but that name comes up a lot.
It does. And one of the things that they may not advertise on there too is they work with a lot of the Brunswick boat groups. Your Sea Rays, your Bayliners, I mean, they're sending their guys to school down there. A lot of dealerships are sending their guys to school, to that particular school. And it also allows, from what I understand, it allows the dealer to probably bill out a little bit more from that side, from a billing rate. So if I'm looking at bringing on a service, and I'm looking at like, hey, what's the credentials here? Like, anybody can just start up a gel coat school and say, hey, like, I got one. But if you're able to go into a Bayliner or a Sea Ray dealer and you're like, hey, by the way, I went to the Brunswick school. I went to their kind of approved school to do gel coat repairs. I think it's going to give you a leg up when you're marketing to these guys.
Yeah, well, and like I said, that name just keeps coming up and up, and we even see massive amount of people within our network going to that course left and right too. And I always give them a little rib. I'm like, hey, make sure you tell those instructors they need not to use 3M anymore.
As you know, man, I'm a certified installer with you guys, and it pained me that week to like use this trap, and I'm like, oh man, we got to get. I'm like talking to the guy who runs this school. I'm like, dude, you guys got to get this guy in there, and I don't know what they're using now. It's been about a year or so, but
I think they're still using it. I think they are. Yeah,
I think they're giving them.
Ash Gaskell just went through it, and I said the same thing. He goes, man, this stuff's miserable, man. They do great with the gel coat stuff, but this 3M, man, I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, so it's that class. It gives you just enough knowledge to be pretty dangerous in the market.
Yeah.
Like I say here, a lot of the guys they're charging $300 for a little small gel coat repair chip. And, you got a couple of them on a boat that you're detailing that day. You can really knock it down. Probably the hardest thing about gel coat repair, from what I've seen is the color match.
But Spectrum's kind of got that dialed in compared to most, right?
Yeah, but so think about it though. You've got a 10-year-old Sea Ray. I can order your color, yeah. I can order your gel coat, man, and it's going to match exactly like it probably came from the factory. But so you need to educate your customer that, hey, you've got about a 70 to 80% color match guaranteed here. Unless you're one of these, one of the old school guys that just knows how to do it, man. I mean, you've got to be an absolute scientist to get this perfect. And I'm personally not there. And I always give my customers that, hey, I'm 70 to 80%. I'm going to order from your haul number from Spectrum. They're gonna match it exactly, based on whatever the ratios and the mix is. But maybe a little off. Most of the time they're pretty much spot on though. But if you're going to do a gel coat repair, you're also going to do a pretty big correction as well, and you're going to build that into the time.
Yeah. And I spotted you being a little humble with that comment that you're certified. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that you just recently got announced to the elite team. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Obviously, it's not something I was expecting, and it's definitely humbling.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, like Stark Yacht Care as a brand has always had the certified installers, but there was a time, or there was time, or is time, should I say, to really start to recognize those that day in and day out try to uplift the marine industry as a whole. They're not considered gatekeepers, the top tier when it comes to the marine detailing aspect, do things right, insured, been a Stark certified installer for multiple years. I mean, these are kind of like the entry gates to get into it. And as of right now, Justin, as well as Cole Holbrook and Drew Lawrence, are the first initial three. And I'm sure that in, the coming time, we'll have more that are going to join you three, and really just, kind of let everybody know that you guys are the ones that people need to be looking up to because you're doing things right. So we just wanted to recognize that to those such as yourself.
Well, I appreciate the honor. I see a lot of people I'm one of the moderators on the forum, the DIY pros, for boat detailing on Facebook, and I see a lot of bad advice on there.
Yes.
And, if you don't know the answer, and that's fine, you don't know the answer, don't guess at it, because somebody's on the other end, like really trying to learn and to do better. So, I don't know all the answers, but, if I don't know the answer personally, I'm not going to answer it, or I'll tag somebody that does it. Just like with the pontoons, I've seen you tag me a couple times on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
humble about it. I'm not the expert when it comes to that.
You're honest enough to say, hey, I don't know, but let me put you in touch with somebody who does.
Yeah.
And I think with any good, even a good business, if you don't offer a service and somebody's looking for it, hey, let me link you up with so-and-so. At least give the referral to somebody, the best person that you probably know available.
Yep. Perfect. So let's shift gears a little bit into the world of fiberglass. And this seems to be a question that I'm just going to continue to ask on every single podcast. I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to any of them, but if you could have 5 pads only to deal with, what 5 pads are you choosing?
Oh man. So white wool, let's just start out with the cutting steps. So you're going to roll into a white wool that you're going to run on a rotary buffer. I personally cannot live without an orange foam pad.
Mm-hmm.
We run force rotation. I love force rotation. I think me and you've talked about the different buffers and stuff, and I love force rotation. So I'm going to Lake Country does a daggone good job with their
force orange pad is hard to beat, man.
Yeah,
sorry.
if you're starting out and you're like, hey, like I'm gonna say white wool, orange foam pad, and then throw a protectant on there, and call it a day, unless they're really wanting to continue down that path. I've had a lot of success with your money pad. The starch money pad. It's one thing I think I've probably got 20 of them that are sitting there ready to use. I think that with, your finish R is producing like a warm glow. It's super cool. So let's see, we've got, that's 3. So, we use, to put a protectant on, we use that black, Lake Country.
Microfiber.
Yeah.
Lake Country, so foam.
Yeah.
Foam guy for putting sealant on. Okay. All right. So black foam.
We'll use that. And I'm actually starting to fall in love with your all's purple pad as well.
The purple haze. Yeah, man. That thing is so tough to beat. And where I see the real value on it is people trying to finish with lighter colored gel coats like, white or light blues or light greens. It's dangerous, man. Where it really separates itself from, say, the money pad, because that's a question that comes up a lot, is essentially it's just going to give you a little bit more cut. So the finishing capabilities are pretty similar, but the purple haze pad is going to give you a little bit more cut. And on those lighter color gel coats, you're okay. It's okay to have that little bit more cut. It's hard to see any micro marring, if it leaves any micro marring or anything along the lines of that. So, for us, we'd rather make sure that it's the best surface as it could be. And if you ever watch that YouTube video that we did on the top side of the Freeman, we did white wool rotary with blaze and then came back with finish R on that purple haze pad. And I mean, crazy 2-step. It looked insane. So, but it was needed. Those pads, though, Justin, were developed by listening to you guys. Like, hey, we need something like this. We need something like the Lake Country purple foam wool pad is an amazing pad. I still use it. It's still in my top 5, honestly, because I love running that on like the top of the calf and running elevate on a high speed on a rotary. Like the gloss is just insane. But, there was people that were asking for that foam interface for the contours and such like that. And that's really where the advantage came from with it, truth be told.
Yeah, I think also on those pads, like the money pad and the purple haze, using compressed air to clean those pads, game changer. Like before, we talked about it, and I can't believe I didn't think of it. But you're like, hey man, like use compressed air, and ever since then, it's like it's a game changer on keeping those things nice and fluffy, and it makes it go a lot further.
Oh, for sure, it gives you plenty of cut. Keeps your finish. Just like the pad was branded, and they last a while. And we're, I'm going to have Rich from Buff and Shine. I'm sure you're familiar with the brand Buff and Shine too. So the owner, Buff and Shine, is actually going to be on the the podcast here coming up soon too, and he's excited to kind of discuss pads because like and I don't mean it in a derogatory term. He's a big nerd with it, right? Like I'm a big nerd when it comes to what we do.
Try to stay in your lane as much as possible.
I just just trying to stay in my lane. And one thing that him and I always talk about, and I'm sure we're going to really elaborate into it when we get into his podcast, is cycling your pads. Like there's too many times that we get people that come out there like, man, I ran this pad, and this is for any brand. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. Our brand, Lake Country, Buff and Shine, doesn't matter. Like, oh, the pad came apart and it ripped apart and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, I hate to tell them that it's not the pad. It's you. Like these foam pads have to be cycled. What's killing them is prolonged amount of time of heat. Okay. So the heat will tear down the foam, tear down the glue that's in there holding the things together. And people are trying to do like, a side of a 30-foot hole with one pad. I mean, guys, it's not gonna work. And then when we're running our polishing stages on 4 or 5 to get that best finish, we're running a long throw polisher like it's a force rotation, and we're digging and pushing and creating tons of heat. The pad disintegrates.
Yeah, I ran into it when I first started using them, and I was using the Rupes, the long throw, the 21, and man, that thing generates some heat. And you got to step back, and why are these things starting to come apart a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
You're either one, you're working in too large of a section, or you're not cycling your pad out.
Yeah,
and that's what we kind of discovered there, and thankfully the World Wide Web helped us on that one. But it's definitely the user, and it's you got to be humbled every once in a while.
I just I get that question a lot, so sometimes I have to be careful on how I answer it without offending them. You know what I mean? But I too did the same thing. So that's how you learn sometimes is to make mistakes, right? So I'm pretty sure that Rich and I will talk about that a little bit. He'll probably go way more in depth than I ever can when it comes to it. He is a mad scientist when it comes to dealing with pads and stuff like that. So I'm excited to hear about that.
If you're going to do it for a living and you're going to sell pads for a living, you better know what you're talking about.
Amen. Amen to that, brother. Use that on. So, with that, what's next for, your business? What do you see in the next 5 years? What's your real target? Is it implementing something else within your business, or, really what's your real target moving forward in 5 years?
Right now, I think focusing on and growing our offerings, our ancillary revenues. I mentioned some about gel coat repair, growing that a bit. We also do like bottom painting, anti-foulant paint versus the clear epoxy. And that's a huge opportunity, especially on the clear side with a lot of our dealers in the area. These guys are, again, buying $150,000 sea rays or chaparrals or whatever they're buying, and they're putting them in the water unprotected. And I think there's a huge market in that, and obviously other people do too, because Armis, they're coming out with products, and SG Marine's coming out with products, and then those aren't coming out for a reason, because there's a market for it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there to boost some revenue. I think we're just on the surface of touching on pontoon boats. If you go to a boat show, I said earlier, you go to a boat show, there's going to be pontoons everywhere. And, I would even argue that a lot of the dealerships, maybe up north, they're probably selling more pontoon boats than they're selling fiberglass boats. So as a detailer, where my core business is all focused, or 70% of it is focused on gel coat corrections and fiberglass, you may need to start looking at other opportunities, because that market is really growing. So that's where I see it. We're getting into a little bit of shrink wrapping up here. I always look at who my competitors are and what they're doing, and I always try to look at some of the downtimes.
Right.
And after wintertime here, I'm looking at we need to add $5,000-$10,000 more revenue here and there, and shrink wrapping can probably easily get that done for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to help you with that, considering that I'm in Florida.
You're not. Maintenance programs are another huge thing. Up until last year, I wasn't even running a maintenance program for the customers. We had enough business, I couldn't keep up with it. So, having so much bandwidth, you couldn't look into it more. Just last year, we started running summer maintenance programs for customers that leave their boats in the water. And, you visit the dock, you do the wash down. Well, man, I can tell you what, you get 10 boats in a marina and you knock 10 of those boats out or 8 of those boats out in a day, you've made some money.
What are you charging somebody like that on average?
Yeah, so you break it down to bi-weekly or monthly. So if they want it, say they want it bi-weekly, and it also depends on the size.
Sure.
You're typically going to be between $6 and $8 a foot to do a maintenance wash and to get it up to speed. There's also a lot of opportunity to sell into that line. Hey, Mr. Customer, whether I didn't do their detail in the spring when their boat went in the water, by the way, your sealant or whatever they use is already gone.
Oh boy.
And you're having an opportunity to, let's put it back on before you have to get a correction. You start doing that stuff and your number one goal as a detailer and a business owner is for repeat business. And looking out for somebody like that, whether you're trying to take care of them, I think that's how you build loyalty, and you build loyalty to your brand. So we're gonna explore that a lot more. I've got a full-time guy that works with me. His name's Cameron Mace. We're as a business owner, I'm pretty much focused on building his pay plan right now. The guy's a stud, and I wanted to do so well that I wanted to never leave. And how can I do that? Is to pay the guy. I'm looking at things that I can bring on for him to grow into his income as well.
Nice. No, I like that. Is if you want to keep those people around you that are helping and supporting you, you got to pay them, right? Otherwise,
yeah. One of the things that's like, oh yeah, I just can't find good help. Good help's out there.
Yeah, you just got to pay for it.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah,
just like a good detailer's out there. You gotta cough up the bucks. And, you got to treat them right, and you gotta pay them so much, they'll never go anywhere else. And that's what we're doing here.
Now, again, like Justin, it's always a pleasure talking to you. It's a pleasure to watch you help others too, because I still feel like industry wide, there's a lot more that we could all share. And there's those that are out there that we call gatekeepers, right? We don't condone gatekeeping around here. We're just trying to uplift the industry as a whole. And, I greatly appreciate what you've done so far for the industry and what you're going to continue to do moving forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what the next 5 brings. And like I say, we're just getting started, man. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to keep going and to keep getting better. And, it's all about coming together and networking with the right people.
Yeah.
It's what it's all about.
So again, man, I appreciate you coming on. Again, late congratulations on the Stark Elite team. And for those of you out there that, ever have any questions, I tell you, he's probably one of the most humblest guys in the industry when it comes to anything that he might be able to help you out with. So reach out to Justin, and until the next episode, y'all. Thanks.